Welcome back everyone. Time to do another comparison between the brand new gaming console, as you guys know, the Xbox Series S. And we're going to compare it against its main predecessor in a way, which is the Xbox One. I'm pretty sure most of you guys already know how both these consoles have held up. The Series S is extremely hard to get in, and I totally understand it's not like the easiest thing to get right now, but in a lot of ways the Xbox One is a much easier console to pick up, and I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys already have one or you want to know how it compares to the Series S, and that's what I'm here to do basically. But I will tell you, if you have all the money in the world, obviously get the Xbox Series S. That is the far better console, has a lot more going for it, has a lot more bang for its buck, and it's definitely the better console. But the Xbox One also has kind of an advantage in a way in some areas, but obviously it just doesn't compete well with the Series S. Now the Xbox Series S costs $299 to pick up brand new, but that is the problem picking it up brand new. You have to pretty much, get it on eBay or something where people just upsell it like crazy. But I guarantee if you just wait a couple of weeks, maybe even a month or two, you'll probably be able to get your hands on it for the retail value. With the Xbox One, in a ton of places it's selling for less than $100. Literally, I think like a year or two ago, I was able to actually pick one of these things up with a controller and a game for I think $90 on eBay or something. So it's definitely gone down since then. Hopefully, maybe it's gone up, I don't know. So you can pick them up for less than $100 easily in a ton of places. I would recommend checking Craigslist, Facebook, all those different places. But for sure, the Series S is the better console. Now, starting off with the outside, definitely completely different designs on both. The Xbox Series S is more of a rectangular shape and much smaller than the Xbox One. Now, on the outside of the original Xbox One, you can see that it looks just like the Xbox 360e in a lot of ways. It's a heavier console, it's a bigger console, and it's not necessarily a downside. It's not like it's a horrible thing about that console, but there is definitely some huge sides for this specific console for sure. On the back of the Xbox One, you have two HDMI ports, you have two USB ports, an Ethernet port, the Connect port on the back as well, so if you want to connect to your Xbox Connect or whatever. And you also have a USB on the side of the console, but on top of that, you actually have the disk drive on the front of the console, which is something the Xbox Series S does not have. And that's a pretty big downside, I think, for the Series S, and that's one of the reasons why the Series S costs so much more less than the Xbox Series X. So that's another pretty big thing to keep in mind. Now on the outside of the Xbox Series S, you have one HDMI port, you have a memory card expansion port on the back, two USB ports, and then one USB on the front, no disk drive, and an extra or less HDMI port, which is weird because the Xbox One had that capability, and as far as I know, a lot of people use that extra HDMI port as kind of a throughput for another console. So if you had a Nintendo Switch, for example, and you only had one HDMI port on your TV, you could basically essentially use the Xbox One as a middleman for your Nintendo Switch. Now, I don't know if it still outputs at the same resolution and all that stuff, maybe higher, maybe lower, I don't know. But you do have that capability of doing something like that on the Xbox One, where you don't really have that on the Xbox Series S natively on the console. So that definitely does suck in some ways. But I think for sure the upgrade in performance and the upgrade in capability that the Xbox Series S has is definitely far better than what you're getting on the Xbox One for sure. That's 100% of a fact. So definitely on the outside, I think for a lot of people, they may actually prefer the way the Xbox Series S looks. It's much smaller, it has a lot more capability, and it's a smaller footprint than the Xbox One. But one thing that a lot of people have to understand is that you're not necessarily going to be using, holding the console every single day. You're just going to be handling it like once or twice to put it up and then to set it up one time and then to basically take it away. That's literally the only times you're going to hold it. So I would definitely say in that sense, it really doesn't make too much sense to talk about the outside, how they feel and everything, but I'll probably tell you the Xbox Series S definitely feels better in my opinion, even though the Xbox One had really decent heft to it for sure. I'm actually pretty surprised how well that specific console was able to hold up too. Now internally, you are getting a much better performance from the Xbox Series S for sure. Now the Xbox One had 8 cores in it, the Xbox Series S also has 8 cores, but they're clocked higher, so that's a pretty big thing to keep in mind. But also when it comes down to the SSD and hard drive, you're getting an SSD built into the Xbox Series S. The Xbox One doesn't have an SSD built in, it has a hard drive. And some people may say oh, what's the difference? You can always expand that storage and get an SSD later on built in or whatever. I will definitely tell you the reading and writing speeds from an Xbox Series S is going to be far better than what you're going to be getting on an Xbox One. That is going to be one of the biggest differentiating factors in my opinion, let alone, the performance increase and all that stuff in other areas. You're getting an overall better reading and writing and loading speeds from games from an Xbox Series S than your Xbox One. So to give you an example, if it takes, 60 seconds for you to load up a game on the Xbox One, now these are just total random numbers, I'm not 100% too sure, but if let's just say that's the case, for an Xbox Series S, it would take you less than half the time, I'm sure. SSDs are meant to be it's not a hard drive, it's a solid state. There's no moving pieces in it, which is huge. So it doesn't have to wait for anything to load or anything like that. Now, I'm not an expert at this stuff, but I would definitely tell you SSD is always better than a hard drive. And that is a humongous advantage that you're getting on the Series S than you're getting on the Xbox One. Also, you're getting more RAM. You're getting at least 2 gigabytes of extra RAM if you're going from the Xbox One to the Series S. But if you're getting the X, there's even more than that. It's twice the amount of RAM. But even that, you're getting a RAM increase as well, which is huge. So let alone everything else, just the performance increase is pretty big in and of itself, which is huge. And like I said, I think the SSD is the biggest advantage, but the RAM is also, the fact that that's getting an upgrade is also a really, really huge asset for it for sure. And people don't understand, like, once you go to an SSD, you can never go back to a hard drive. I have an iMac, I have a MacBook, I put SSDs in both of them. I think my MacBook already had one, but my iMac had a hard drive. I put an SSD in it. It totally changed everything. And I'll definitely tell you the same exact thing happens with the consoles as well. Now, turning both on, you have pretty much the same type of UI kind of on both for now, but since the Xbox Series S is going to be lasting much longer, you're going to be getting a much longer support on that. So the UI may change probably within the next year or two, and it's going to be a massive change as well. PS5 has already gotten a pretty big UI upgrade, and I'm pretty sure with this next version of Xbox software, it's probably going to get an upgrade as well. Now, in terms of the output resolution, you can do 4K at the Xbox One, which is good as far as I know, or maybe it's only for the One S, I don't know. But you do have the ability of doing 4K at 60 on the Xbox Series S. On top of that, you might also have 120 frames per second in the future as well for the Xbox Series S, and quite potentially 8K. Now, that may be only for the Series X, so I'm not really too sure. But you're going to have way more resolutions that you can choose from on your Series S than on your Xbox One. But on top of that, you have to make sure that your TV supports it. If you have a TV or monitor that's only 720p, you're not going to be able to upscale to 4K because your TV doesn't support it. But if you have a 4K or 8K capability TV, you can upscale a lot of games or play a lot of games natively straight from that Xbox itself, which is huge. So that's another huge advantage that you have on the Series S. You have way more resolutions that you can choose from, but there is kind of an advantage with the Xbox One, and that is pretty much the ability of playing used games. And that might seem kind of random for me to put it in here, but I don't want to just say the Series S is the best console in every single area. With the Xbox One, because of that disk drive, you can literally just go to GameStop, you can go to any other place in the world, and just pick up any console that you want to in any game, and it'll cost you way less. If you want to specifically pick up a game and it's a used one or whatever, you can just buy a $10, $15, $20 game that's already been used if you're okay with that, and pop it into your Xbox One and play it for far less of the cost than buying a brand new game every time. Most Xbox games, the brand new ones, are like $60, $70 sometimes. I've seen a ton of used ones for like less than 20 or 30. So even eBay, you can buy them, and a ton of places you can buy them. With the Series X, you have that capability. With the Series S, you do not have that capability, sadly. So even though the, Series S is far more superior in a lot of ways, and it's faster and it's better looking and all that stuff, the Xbox One does have a pretty good advantage when it comes down to that specific situation. Again, every other situation the Xbox Series S pretty much wins at, but when it comes down to actually the disk drive, there's more than just playing Xbox One games, because the Series S is also backwards compatible, but you have to re-download all those games and re-buy all those games for the ones on the Xbox One. If you already have the discs, then the Series X is probably going to make more sense to you, in my opinion. Now, the controllers are also a little bit different on both. You have pretty much almost the same thing for the most part. You're just getting that dedicated share button on the Series S. The Xbox One controllers for the most part were all black. The Series S controller is white, and I actually do like it a lot. They removed that black top that was on the Xbox Series S controller or the One S controller. I'm not really too sure why they did that. I actually like that on the Xbox One S a lot on that controller, even on the Xbox One and Xbox One X controller, but they did remove it for the next generation. So I'm not too sure, and I'm not really happy about it, but it is what it is. There's nothing we can really do for that for the most part. But for the, to kind of sum up this video and to answer the question, should you buy an Xbox Series S or should you continue to use your current Xbox One? I will definitely tell you, you may not even have a choice right now because you just can't buy an Xbox Series S in a lot of places. I have gotten pretty lucky with the Series S. With the PlayStation 5s, I haven't gotten really lucky, so I have to go buy one brand new from like the resale market, which sucks because it's going to cost me twice the amount. But with an Xbox One, you're still getting some capability. You know, there's still a lot of games out there for the Xbox One, and I don't really think there's an urgency for you to go pick up an Xbox One right now. And I really want to tell you guys that because right now it's really hard to pick up a Series S, I'll be completely honest. Unless you want to go to the brand new market, you're going to have a really hard experience trying to find one in the retail price tag. You're going to have to spend like $1,000 on some of these, which is crazy. But the longer you wait, the higher of a chance you have of successfully actually copying one. But on top of that, the lower the prices in the used market and the brand new market and the resale market will actually end up being. So that's a pretty big thing to keep in mind. Every time a new console comes out, within the first couple of months, it's always hard to get one, but within the first 3, 4, 5, 6 months, it becomes publicly available in a lot of places and you can just walk into Walmart and pick it up. Now, I'm not 100% too sure how this specific situation will hold up with the Series S, X, and PS5, since bots have pretty much bought in all of them, but we're pretty much going to have to wait and see what happens. So if you currently have an Xbox One, I will probably tell you you're not really missing out on a crazy amount right now, mostly because there's not a lot of, only specific Series S or X games that are out right now, but within the next year or two, that's when more and more of these games are going to start being released, and eventually the Xbox One is going to turn into the Xbox 360, and it's pretty much just going to be, an older console that's maybe still getting support here and there, but it's not going to be as, a crazy of a console as it once was. Right now, it's still super pertinent, it's still super popular, so game developers are still going to be making games for that, but maybe sooner than later, within the next year, we're going to start seeing a pretty big transition where most developers are going to be only specifically making games for the Series S or Series X. So that's a pretty big thing to keep in mind. Again, it is what it is. It's not the deal breaker. If you currently have an Xbox One, I'd recommend you keeping it. But if you can go ahead and find an Xbox Series S in the used market, the resale market, or whatever, and you're okay with spending the money, then I'll say by all means go for it. For $299 brand new, that's an extremely good deal. And if you can get one for brand new, and that price tag, that's a no-brainer. But if you have to spend $5, $6, $1,000 on it, I would probably say wait. Just wait until the Xbox Series S become more publicly available. If you want, just go buy an Xbox One S or One X. That can probably hold you over if you need more power temporarily. But definitely the Series S is a far better console. But the Xbox One is still extremely good for the most part too. So that really pretty much covers it up for the most part. If you guys have any other questions or anything, let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that'll mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. Every single subscriber that we get really does count, so it means so much if you guys could hit that. Also check out the other links down in the description as well. My Twitter, my Instagram, my other channels. More importantly than everything else, love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.